Good morning, everybody. This is Jim with Compliance Professionals. Today I'm going to talk about two different subjects, and both of these many times we just don't have any control of whatsoever. So let's get right into them. First of all, I'm going to talk about tornado safety, and then I'm going to talk about active shooter in the building. So let's talk about tornadoes. There's no such thing as guaranteed safety in a tornado. Freak accidents happen, and most of the time, violent tornadoes can level and blow away almost any house, a home with like condos, apartments, manufactured housing, mobile homes, and businesses can just go flying through the air along with all of its occupants. Extremely violent tornadoes, like EF5 type tornadoes, are very rare. Just as the one that we had not too long ago down in Joplin. Most tornadoes are much weaker and can be survived using some safety ideas. So let's talk about them just real quickly. The best thing that you can do in regards to tornado safety is to practice, is to have prevention, is to have a plan before the storm actually happens. You can have a plan where you are in your business. You can have a plan where you are in your home. Both of them should be based on the kind of dwelling that you work or live in. And so let's talk about some of the safety tips that we can have, okay? Number one, know where to take shelter in just a matter of seconds. Tornadoes have to start somewhere. Hopefully it's never by you, but sometimes that can happen to people. And they come out of nowhere. I mean, these days we do know and understand that we do have some warning. These are great, right? We know right here we're probably going to get a warning, and almost all of us have a telephone that makes a noise when there is a tornado watch or warning. And then, of course, to practice that drill as to what you should do and where you should go. When you're at work, you need to know, is there a place I can go if weather gets bad? Let's even toss large hail into that in damaging winds, right? Or at home, what should I do in case a tornado happens at home? Obviously, we don't want anything to happen to you when you're at home. We want you and your family to be safe, and we want you to be able to show up for work the next year. So this is or the next day. So this is the time of year when you should practice a drill and sit down and figure out, where do I go if there's a tornado? Flying debris is probably one of the greatest dangers that you're going to have in tornadoes. So if you can, store some type of protective covering around you. Mattress, heavy blankets, sleeping bags, things like that. Places of shelter should have some supplies in it. If you're going to have a place of shelter at home, I would have a medicine kit, storage of some blankets, maybe some place to sit, maybe a little bit of food around you. And you can even have limited supplies even when you're in the workplace, whether things are stored out in your vehicle or they may be stored in your place of work, depending on where you work and what type of facilities that you have. When a tornado watch is issued, think about the drill. That's when you pause for just a second and say, okay, I know what I'm doing. I practiced this. I've got it down. Turn on, make sure your telephones are turned on and you're looking at one of your weather apps or NOAA radio. If there's TVs and radios nearby, they should have those tuned to a channel that's going to be talking about the weather. And also a supervisor will let you know too. So you can stay alert many different ways. Some of you have a place to go when you're on the job. There's others who'll be dismissed in plenty of time for you to get where you need to be going. If you're going to be traveling at home in your car, wherever you happen to go, there'll be some time if you stop to think about your drill ahead of time. If you do happen to be at home, you know that old saying about opening windows to equalize the pressure? You don't need to worry about that. If a tornado does hit the building you're in, it's going to open the windows for you. It'll blast them right open, as a matter of fact. Or if you happen to be at a variety of different stores, facilities that are nearby, large buildings you'll be able to go into. That's part of my tornado drill, and I practice it. I go around to a variety of different places during the month, and there's large buildings where I happen to be driving that I know I can go into. I can get in a hallway, I can go into a bathroom in there. So just stop to think a little bit about what you're doing and where you're going. The place of work where you're at should have a designated place to go during storms. If not, you need to talk to the superintendent about that and find out where it is, if they don't have anything posted, where you can go to be safe. All administrators of schools and very large buildings will have some kind of a plan in place. So let's talk a little bit about some of the plans, some of the signs of a tornado. Weather forecasting science itself is not perfect, and some tornadoes do occur without any warning whatsoever. So there's no substitute for staying alert, looking up at the sky, looking at your phone, understanding the weather reports for the entire day. Besides an obviously visible tornado, there's some things that we can look for and listen for. Number one, if you see a strong, persistent rotation up in the cloud base, that's something that you really need to be aware of. Going around and around, maybe funnels curling down out of the clouds, then forming down at the base. And then, of course, if you see whirling dust or debris down below on the ground, and if it's anywhere near you at all, you need to get out of there just as fast as you can. Tornadoes sometimes don't have any funnel for quite some time, and so consequently you can still get hurt and hurt badly. Hail or heavy rain falling and then you might have a dead calm. Heavy rain, heavy hail, and then all of a sudden it stops and gets extremely quiet at that point in time. You need to be listening for a rumble that would take place. Not like thunder, where you get a boom and it goes away. A constant rumble. Listen for that. That would designate, well, there's a tornado nearby and I need to be very careful about what I'm doing. At nighttime, if you see small, bright flashes of light, greenish or bluish in color, that's not like lightning up in the sky, but flashes of light that have that color. What that means is that's electric cables going out. And so you got to be careful of electricity the next day. You might have some lines that are down, right? Those things have been snapped during the wind. And then at nighttime, a persistent lowering of the cloud base itself. And that's really hard to see. Very difficult to see. It might be just full of rain and dark clouds. Listen carefully for the storm itself and what it is that you might be hearing. And then make sure that once again, you might have this on and it's going to tell you where the tornado is. If it's in your neighborhood, if it's not in your neighborhood. Those are just some of the tips that you might be concerned about. So where do you go in a tornado if you're at work? Well, there'll be a designated place for you to go. Normally it's near some bathrooms or some plumbing, might be in a lower area that you happen to be working at. So get down in the lower floor in the basement. If you are going down below, and if let's say you happen to be at home, be concerned about what's up above you. If you have something extremely heavy up there, a piano, washers, dryers, things like that, you might pick a little bit different place and get out of the way of that. If you do happen to have let's say a home without a basement, you know, we've got homes without basements, we've got condos, apartments, we've got manufactured housing, and we've got mobile homes, right? So we're going to talk just a little bit about some of those. In a house with no basement, maybe a dormitory or an apartment-like thing, you've got to be very careful in those. Find a place where you can cover your head, where you can get into some type of shelter. Same thing with office buildings. Go in a hallway, get down on the floor. In a mobile home, don't be there. Get out, get away, unless the area that you happen to live at has a shelter in place. Same thing with cars or trucks. Get down. Always get down as low as you possibly can. Okay, active shooter in the building. Here's some action guidelines that you should remember. Number one, if there's an active shooter in the building, bam, 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 all of a sudden you hear gunfire. Don't stand around and wonder, gosh, I wonder if somebody dropped a beam. I wonder if somebody dropped 2x4s. What could that noise have been? I'll tell you, if you even think it's gunfire, you need to move. If there's an active shooter in the building, the first thing that you should do, the first thing that you should always do is run. Run as fast as you can. Get out of the area, get out of the building, have an escape route and a plan in mind. Evacuate, regardless of whether others agree to follow you or not. Leave your belongings behind. Help others evacuate. If they've fallen down, grab them, help pick them up, and then when you get to where you're safe, call 911. Stop individuals from going back into the building. Keep your hands visible at all times. Follow any instructions by police officers, and really, sometimes if people are wounded badly, you shouldn't attempt to move them. Keep them in place until the right people arrive that can really help them. If you can't run, the next thing that you should do is hide. Find a place where you happen to be working where you'll be able to hide. The hiding place should be out of view of the active shooter. It should provide protection if shots are fired in your direction. It should not trap you or restrict you to options for movement. You should immediately lock the door. Block the door, if it's at all possible, with heavy furniture. And if the active shooter is nearby, after locking the door, silence your cell phone. Get it way down, all the way silenced. Turn off any source of noise that might be around, TV, radio, things of that nature. Hide behind large items, cabinets and desks. And then you've got to remain very, very quiet. If you can't run and if you can't hide, the next thing that you should probably do is protect yourself. In some difficult cases, you may have to fight for your life. You should be aggressive as possible if you're going to have to fight for your life. You should throw items. You should use anything you can as an improvised weapon, plastic pens, whatever it is that you happen to have around you that you can use as a weapon, do so, right? Scream and yell as loud as you can, committing to your actions. You've got to be 100% positive what you're doing. You're fighting for your life at that time. When police arrive, put down any things you've got in your hands. Keep all your hands visible at all times. Follow their instructions. Don't make any quick movements toward the police, and don't stop to ask officers for help or direction when evacuating. Just proceed in the direction where they're pointing and keep moving. Let's hope none of these ever happen to you. Let's hope you're always safe and you can avoid them. So we had a little quiz. The first question is, the most violent tornadoes can level and blow almost any house and its occupants away. Obviously, that's true. By the way, it can blow away a business too. Prevention and practice should be discussed before the storm by having a tornado plan in place. Everybody knows that's true. You should talk to your job site foreman about having a predetermined place of shelter to meet in the event of a tornado or near your job site. True. If a tornado is in the general area, you should go outside and try to see it. No, don't do that. Hide. Get below ground as far as you can if possible. Protect yourselves. Don't go outside and look for tornadoes. If there's an active shooter in the building or at the job site, first thing you should do is evacuate and run for shelter. Run, take shelter, run, take shelter, and run and take shelter, and keep on going. I hope this has helped a little bit. It's not the most easy subject to talk about, but unfortunately these days it's one you should consider and you should talk about. Thanks very much. I'll see you next month. Everybody be safe.